Welcome back to America Decides. Thanks for staying with us. I want to bring in our political panel. It's political panel time. Joel Payne, CBS News political contributor, Democratic strategist, right with me here at the desk. And Jeanette Hoffman, Republican strategist and former executive director of the New Jersey Republican State Committee. Jeanette, it's great to have you on. Do me a favor, size up the New Jersey's governor's race. The Democrats had their last debate. The Republicans just had theirs. Give me your analysis.
Sure. Well, the Democrats have a lot of candidates running. They have 6 pretty well-qualified candidates. It's really anybody's guess how they slice up that field. Mikey Sherrill, who's a congresswoman in New Jersey, she looks to be the favorite right now, but it could be pretty close. Steve Fulop, who's the Jersey City mayor, he's running neck and neck with her. So it's going to come down to the wire in the Democratic primary. In the Republican primary, Jack Ciattarelli is the strong favorite. He ran in 2021 against Phil Murphy, the Democrat governor, and he almost beat him by 2 points. After 8 years of a Democratic governor, Republicans really like their chances in the general election this year. So we're going to have to see, but Republicans feel really good going into it.
And what has got Ciattarelli in a good shape? Because he was kind of a surprise, kind of a dark horse candidate. He's now better known now, very Trumpy, embraces that, been endorsed by the president. Is that going to be a drag? Do Republicans fear at all?
Well, listen, whatever Republicans do, the Democrats are going to try and tie them to Trump. But this race all comes down to local issues. It's about property taxes. It's about New Jersey being one of the most expensive states in the entire country. And it's about energy rates. Here in New Jersey, energy rates are going up by 20% on June 1st. And that's because the Democrats have just been relying on this expensive green energy mandate without relying on affordable, reliable energy sources. So Republicans are going to make that their platform. Jack Ciattarelli, since the day he lost to Governor Murphy in 2021, he's been crisscrossing the state. His name ID is very high. He's a really likable guy, and he's got a really great shot running against Murphy.
That is a race to watch.
Running against Democrats, because Murphy's term limited. Yeah.
That is definitely a race to watch. Joel, you and I have this conversation sometimes via text. I know you want to talk about it, so I want to give you the open forum.
Yeah.
What is the state of the Democratic Party right now? What do you think it needs to do going forward? And what are benchmarks to measure whether it's succeeding or failing in that effort?
Yeah, good question. I was excited. I thought you were going to give me a chance to talk New Jersey politics. I'm a New Jersey kid, Union County.
You can weigh in whenever you want.
But maybe I'll work that into kind of my assessment here. Listen, there's a crisis of trust that the American people have with the Democratic Party. There are reasons for that. I think some of them are coincidence. I think some of them are just significant errors that the party has made. This is the time to fix it. I think that Democrats are kind of fighting this natural inertia to make excuses, to not confront what we've done wrong in the past as a party. I think the 3 main things that I would highlight is, 1, not acknowledging what people are really feeling out there in the country, the Biden situation being a good example. If people feel like he's old, regardless of whether or not you think he's able to do the job, and regardless of what the electoral results might say, you can't really ignore that. People thinking that they're being gaslit by the party, people thinking that the party doesn't listen when new voices want to speak up, like David Hogg. So I think the party has to do a lot of self-assessment. And the last thing I would say is, now's as good a time as any. I'd urge the leaders of the party to rip the Band-Aid off right now, to not
What does that
dither.
mean?
That means when someone asks you a question about Joe Biden, I think you should say, President Biden served the country honorably for a long time. He made a terrible political mistake. He made significant political misjudgment, and we acknowledge that. And we acknowledge what you saw, and those weren't your lying eyes. What you saw was real.
Do New Jersey politics quickly.
New Jersey politics quickly. I agree with Jeanette's assessment mostly of the Democratic field. I think Mikey Sherrill is probably the slight lean favorite. Fulop is a very strong contender. You know, Ras Baraka, obviously he's been in the news lately with what's been happening at that ICE center. I don't think there's a coincidence that he looked for that confrontation to maybe push himself out in that field as well. So I think Sherrill is the slight favorite, but I'd watch out for Baraka as well.
I want to play for you sound from Elon Musk yesterday that occurred at the Qatar Economic Forum about his future in terms of money and politics. Listen.
In terms of political spending, I'm going to do a lot less in the future.
And why is that?
I think I've done enough.
Jeanette, really?
Well, I mean, I guess we'll take him at his word here, but I don't think anyone expected to see Elon Musk play the role that he played in this presidential campaign, specifically in states like Pennsylvania. He really invested a lot of time and money. I really credit him for his work in and basically winning that state in the last few weeks of the campaign. And I think his time with Doge is coming to an end. One would think. I also thought what happened today in the White House in South Africa with the South African president was very interesting, given the fact that Elon Musk gave an interview to Bloomberg yesterday saying, I can't get authorized to deal with Starlink because I'm white. Don't you think that's racist? Don't you think the laws in South Africa are racist? And then we saw the blow up and the ambush of the South African president and talking about white genocide by President Trump today. So I don't think his influence is waning in the White House, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him take a step back because it must be interfering with his business dealings.
Clearly is. Joel?
Please don't go, Elon. Please stay with us. Please go to states like Wisconsin, spend your money, toss good money after bad, become the story, become disliked all over the country in battleground states. I'm telling you as a Democrat, Elon, begging you, please don't go.
Because he has become a kind of force multiplier in terms of either voter registration, voter activism, a sense that he mobilizes Democrats possibly as much as President Trump.
The serious point there is he is a very easy person to hold up and say, Donald Trump wants to take power away from you and give it to people like him. Billionaires, the richest man in the history of the world. He wants to let him go through the budget and take your hard-earned money and give it to other billionaires. That is a very easy thing that Democrats would love to refrain between now and next November.
You may not get your wish, but I take the point. Joel Payne, Jeanette Hoffman, thank you very much. I appreciate it.